What's up, YouTube? Hello and welcome back to the Victorian Thimble. My name is Cassie. Thanks for joining us today. Today's just a quick little vlog update and just a little chat, some sewist lifestyle around getting projects done. How do we finish those UFOs? UFOs meaning unfinished projects. Well, hang out with me for a few minutes today and we're going to take a look at that and see how we can push through and get projects done. I think all of us do have UFOs, we all have the best intentions, but I think most sewists end up with some projects in their closet. This can happen for a variety of reasons, but some of the top reasons that projects can get abandoned and become UFOs are that they are too difficult for us to do, like it's above our skill level. Another barrier to completing a project is not having the resources. Maybe you embarked on a project and there's certain things you just can't order online or get at your local store, and then you're stuck with a project that's not finished. Another limitation or barrier to getting projects done is your time. Sometimes we have to look at a project and ask ourselves, do I have enough time to get this project done for the event or the deadline that I want it for? Other projects don't have deadlines. We're just fine to do them when we need to. But I do know that a project with a deadline, if we miss that deadline, such as my jacket here, these are primary ways that projects can get abandoned. And so I guess there's one more I should mention, is the idea of being a perfectionist. And this one is, I think, a little tricky and dicey to talk about because there's a fine line between, I think, having high standards and crossing over into perfectionism. If perfectionism, I think, is more like that's crippling and disabling to us. It immobilizes us because we get so fixated on wanting something to be what we deem as the perfect solution or the perfect application, that it can make us keep picking the thing out and stitching it again until finally we ruin the fabric. Now we have to cut new pieces of fabric. Or our perfectionism leaves us keep saying, I don't know how to get that zipper installed. I'll do it next time. I'll do it next time. And next thing you know, it's a UFO sitting in a bag, right? So I think if we take a look at the project before we even set out, we can make a better evaluation if we're going to have a positive experience and a win with the project before we get started. So perhaps by now you're thinking that you've heard enough of this and you just want to, let's get down to the business of how are we going to get these UFOs done. So one thing, guys, in a sewist lifestyle, I do think we have to be realistic that sometimes interruptions happen. We might want to have a rule like I used to, that whatever project I start, I have to finish that before I even cut out the next thing. And that can work really well if you can stick to it. But I have discovered it isn't always realistic. And the reason why is exactly what we were talking about before. Some of those barriers, such as you get into a project and it's far more complex than you thought it was, or doing that project with that selected fabric is bringing all these challenges that are taking additional time or additional resources, and it makes it challenging to get it done. And then sometimes you might have other deadlines coming up. So for example, maybe you're just working on a garment for yourself, a beautiful pair of slacks or a skirt or something like that, right? And then October hits and you realize, oh, I have some things I really want to sew for Christmas so that I can give them as gifts. This is exactly how, in a sewist lifestyle, sometimes we do have to put a project down to meet another deadline. So what you're going to want to do is, if that happens, you need to plan the time when you're going to come back to that project. I always find that if I ask myself in my mind, when am I going to revisit this? When do I plan to come back and complete this project? Then I'm much more likely to put a date on the calendar that I'm going to follow through, or at least have a mental sequence of events of what I'm going to do. For example, I do have a few UFO projects right now for a variety of reasons, kind of some of the ones like I described to you. I have a project I'm working on for a friend. This one is a little bit top secret right now because they are going to be using it on their YouTube channel. And so until I get this thing done and they have it published, I'm just going to leave it at that. But I did pause on some of my work to do some work on that project for my friend. So that pauses other things. But then I have this project here that's been waiting for me to get finished. And then I have this project here, this UFO. This is a friend's dress, and I had taken a few pieces to alter for my friend in the summertime. And for some reason, this one just kept getting put off. And so now I'm committed to pulling through and getting this done. So aside from a few unfinished things like that, and I do have one or two other in a bag over there in my stash, I try not to have too many UFOs, but if you have them, you just understand that sometimes life happens and you have to be flexible and you will come back to it and get it done. So some of the ways that I would suggest you can push through and get a project done is, first of all, you need to connect with that end vision. Take a look at the project and think about why you accepted it in the first place or decided to do the project. So in the instance of something like this dress that I'm hemming for a friend, the end vision that I need to think of and remind myself to get this done with is things like seeing my friend happy to have the dress returned to her, knowing in my heart that I did a good thing and I completed this for my friend, which, by the way, she did pay me to do this work for her. I really need to get it done. Another way you can connect with the vision, like let's say it's something like this, the garment that's sitting here unfinished, my jacket. Picture yourself in the outfit or the item that you're working on and the event that you were planning on wearing it at. Are you making something for a wedding, for a Christmas party, for a summer vacation or a destination vacation somewhere? When you can picture how you're going to have this item in use, and then you can start talking to yourself and coaching yourself inside about why you chose to make this instead of buy it. Because I find that when I do that, this is a huge push through the barrier piece for me. So with the Princess of Wales jacket here behind me that I am going to return to and finish, I try and think about the whole reason I made that instead of just going to a department store and finding a jacket, because I could find something of a similar cut at least, is I did want something that was really pretty, something that was special and unique, something that gave a nod to the royal family because it is literally being modeled after one of Princess Catherine's outfits. And that gives it meaning to me, and that increases the pleasure when I wear the outfit, gives me things to talk about with people, all those different things. And I will have a couple of investment pieces in my wardrobe that I can lean on when I need to go to parties or events. I'm going to have these beautiful finished pieces ready to go. So that is probably a really big thing that I would suggest, is connect to that end vision. And hopefully that's going to bring up that inspiration and that motivation that you're going to get started. Another tip that I could give you is to track your progress on the project. So take a look at where you are so far. So with something like the jacket here, what I could tell you is that first I have completed drafting the pattern, which I did work off of a purchase pattern, and then I've drafted parts of the pattern to make it what it is. So I can congratulate myself that I finished drafting the pattern. I have finished cutting out all of the parts, and I do have all the piping sewn, the embroidery done, most of the jacket assembled, the lining is most of the way assembled, the sleeves are most of the way assembled. It's just got to all be brought together. So when we think about the progress that we've made, then you can use that to remind yourself this, like, now that I just ran through all that with you guys, I realized this thing's probably more like 80% done, because the sleeves are already stitched and lined and have the piping on the edges. The jacket is assembled this far. The lining is like the inner part of the jacket lining is assembled. It just needs to be installed. The sleeves done, close it up, and do the buttons and loops. So this is really not far from being done. And I think you could even hear me get excited with anticipation at the thought of finally finishing this thing and having this beautiful jacket to wear. So tracking your progress and just congratulating yourself on how far you've come with something already and reminding yourself you don't have that much farther to go, you can really use that as a piece to motivate you to carry on. Now, what if you're thinking to yourself, yeah, but this was a project I found in a bag and all that I had done so far was cut it out. Well, that's still good news, because when you have that situation, you can remind yourself that you're now not trying to pick up on work that you were doing 6 months or a year ago and going, oh, where was I in this project? Why did I stop it? What was giving me a problem? Or how did I run out of time? So if you're starting and you had only had it cut out, for example, then you can motivate yourself with the fact that most of the journey of this project is there. And because you already had it cut out, it's almost like buying a ready-to-sew kit. You did a bonus for yourself. So whether your project's early on or late on, you can reframe what the project is, where it's at, to motivate yourself to get it further done. So hopefully that is helpful as well. Another one, if I haven't said, number 3, I guess, commit to it. Sometimes we just have to decide to get it done. So I do know that with this jacket here, until I have another event coming up, it's very easy for me to keep finding other projects to put in front of it that I deem more urgent or more interesting or has a better opportunity around it, whichever way you want to cut it. There is always that, but I also made the investment in all the supplies for this, and so I'm going to commit to it. I'm committed to finishing it done. Part of committing to the project is showing up for yourself. So when we do things that we know we need to do or want to do or made a commitment to, and we follow up, that's us showing up for ourselves. And guys, I'm telling you, that is one of the most empowering things. Do you know that every time, for example, you sleep in and you hit the snooze alarm, what you're telling part of your brain is that I wanted to get up at 7 a.m., but I wasn't willing to follow through for myself on that. It's almost like saying to yourself, I'm not important enough to show up for and do the things that I think are important. And so when we decide to commit to something and show up for ourselves, I don't even know how else to explain. It just feels so empowering. It fills your spirit up inside. You feel good about something you got done. You were a person with intention, and you were a person with follow through. And of course, then you get the finished project. So hopefully that's helpful to know too, that you can just decide to commit to the project and commit to showing up for yourself. Another possible way to push through getting a project done, and I have done this one before too, guys, is don't be afraid to ask for help. I made a mascot costume once. I'll see if I can get a picture to flash up for you. And this mascot costume took me quite a while to make. And I ended up UFOing the project when I had the head paper mache'd, and I think I had the fabric stretched around it, and that was it. I didn't have the beak of this owl attached or any of the other accessories and parts. And I just got to the point, I was just so overwhelmed. I didn't want to finish the project because every time I looked at it, I was like, it's going to be huge, it's going to be awful, and I don't know how to finish it. I don't know what to do. And then finally one day, I thought of a friend of mine, and we hadn't gotten together in a while. And I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll just ask her to come over and just be a cheerleader and just say, you know what, I'm not obligating you to do anything, but if you could hang out with me and, you know, if you see ways to contribute towards the work and you want to, you're welcome to, but just come be a friend and help me get this thing done. Well, you know what? My friend ended up coming over and she did help. She actually had some great visions for ways that we could finish all the feather details on the owl costume, get the beak attached. And she also just got to work with her hands and help me. So that's another way to work towards finishing a project, guys, is don't be afraid to ask for help. And then finally, one last tip would be to follow the path of highest enjoyment. This almost loops back around to the start where you have to ask yourself, why did you want to do the project in the first place? Was it something for yourself to wear? Was it something like this? You accepted an alteration to help somebody else? Was it something for a deadline, like you're making an outfit to go to a wedding or Christmas gifts or something like that? And so remind yourself the path of highest enjoyment when we sew, I think a lot of the time is just connecting with that passion and appreciating all the different parts of our craft as a sewist. And so if it made you happy to do that project, that's why you committed to doing it. Is it something that gave you joy? Just get in that zone and focus on the parts. What do you enjoy most about your sewing? Is it the handling of the fabric, the selecting the fabric, getting it all pressed, using the spray starch and everything? Or are you more about the cutting? Do you enjoy laying the fabric and putting the patterns down and doing that whole cutting process? Check mark for me on that one. And finally, then there's the actual sewing and the assembly. Maybe you love the actual assembly of the garment and experiencing the way you're using your skills to do something good and to make something beautiful and useful. So whichever it is, or on each part of the sewing journey, follow the path that gives you highest enjoyment. Choose fabrics that you like to work with the most, patterns you like to work with the most, things like that. And if it is a project that's a UFO you're trying to finish, try and continue through by making it as pleasurable as possible, by doing your favorite parts whenever you can, and just pushing through as well, of course, guys. I think that's part of it, guys, is at the end of the day, there is that commit to it part. You do have to decide to get it done. But you can do that by planning when you'll follow up, follow through to get it done, track that progress, get in touch with that end vision and commit to it, ask for help if needed, and do it in the way that brings the most pleasure possible. So there it is, guys. That's what we have here. If you're still here by now and watching the video, I want to thank you for watching. If I haven't already said earlier, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. What I'd love you to comment below is tell me how many UFOs you have. Count them up in your head. Is it 2, 4, 5, 6? Just put the number in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Would make me feel more ordinary too. So there it is. So anyways, guys, thanks again for tuning in today at the Victorian Thimble. I look forward to showing you updates on these projects in my next videos. So I'll see you next time with your needle and thread at the Victorian Thimble. Take care, guys. Bye.